Hello. Who the fuck is that? Never mind that. So some of you may remember that I did a review for Batman Forever. Like, if you've been watching my videos on YouTube, you would know I'm doing a fuckload of Batman reviews, and the last one I reviewed was Batman Forever. So now, the next one I have to review is Batman and Robin. Oh boy. Batman and Robin is the fourth film in the Tim Burton / Joel Schumacher Batman series. I still don't know who this kid is, but that's not the point. It's the fourth film in the Tim Burton / Joel Schumacher Batman series, and it's held by many people to be one of the worst fucking movies ever made. It's right up there with movies like Troll 2 and Battlefield Earth, and, yeah. Now, is this movie worthy of its reputation of being one of the worst movies ever made? I have no fucking clue. I haven't seen this movie in years. So, that strange boy right there has delivered this VHS copy of the movie to me. I'm going to watch this and see if the movie really is worthy of its reputation of being one of the worst movies ever made. Okay, I started this video out asking the question, is Batman and Robin deserving of the reputation of being one of the worst movies ever made? Like, does the movie actually deserve to be considered one of the worst movies ever made? Well, I watched the movie, and I watched the movie. Oh yeah, I watched it with this guy, who I'll explain who this guy is in a second. But we watched the movie, and I'm here to tell you conclusively that Batman and Robin absolutely deserves its reputation. This is the worst fucking...
I would agree. I would second this.
This is probably one of the worst pieces of shit I've ever seen in my life. Like, I forgot how bad this movie was. I mean, I've seen the movie before, like when I was a fucking little bastard. But, oh yeah, by the way, this is an acquaintance of mine named Eric Casey, who has a YouTube channel called Dreammaker Productions, and he does like short films and shit, and some movie reviews and shit. So check his channel out. I'll leave a link to his channel in that little box down below this video.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you like his videos, subscribe to him. I'm not saying you have to subscribe to him.
No, you have
Only if you like his videos.
No, you have
If you don't like his videos, feel free.
No, you have to. If you don't, I will find you.
Okay, so we just watched Batman and Robin, the fourth film in what is basically known as the Joel Schumacher / Tim Burton Batman series. Called that, of course, because the first two movies were directed by Tim Burton, and the last two movies were directed by Joel Schumacher.
Handpicked by Tim Burton, by the way.
What?
Do you know that? Joel Schumacher was handpicked by Tim Burton.
Yeah, I knew that. They were like friends and shit. But now, I mentioned in my review on Batman Forever, I'm not a big fan of that movie. You like the movie, don't you?
Yes. Batman Forever is just one of those guilty pleasures, and it actually was the movie that got me interested in filmmaking to begin with. Yeah, Batman Forever is the movie that inspired me to become a filmmaker.
You're a filmmaker? Oh yeah, I mentioned you made short films.
But yeah, just the things that I really liked about Batman Forever was just the setting.
This is a review on Batman and Robin, by the way.
I know, but people are going to be hating on me, and if I don't back up my case and just say that...
Explain why you like Batman Forever. And then...
Real quick, I just love the setting, the little sets and everything, the locations that were picked. I really liked Jim Carrey when he was Edward Nygma. When he became the Riddler, he basically was, Ace Ventura and all Jim Carrey's infamous roles. But when he was Edward Nygma, I thought, yeah, in a more serious role, that would have been a great movie. But
yeah, the thing I didn't like, I already established in my review on that. I don't really like Batman Forever, but I do respect the movie because I can see why somebody like you would like the movie, but also I do think they tried with that movie. I think it's a well-made movie.
I don't know why. There's just I just get such an enjoyment when I watch it.
I do think it's a well-made movie. I think Schumacher, he tried his best with that movie. Mm-hmm. Personally, I didn't like it, but I can see why people liked it.
Yeah.
You know, and I respect it. I don't like the movie personally, but I respect the movie.
Completely understandable.
What was I gonna say? But this movie,
Batman and Robin, is. After rewatching it again, I liked it as a kid, but after rewatching it and, you know, more mature and knowing how to make films. Yeah, good point. But still, knowing a little bit more about the filmmaking process and everything, just, wow. I couldn't believe all this stuff. Just, it's bad. It's very, very bad.
Yeah, this was a pretty shitty movie.
Horribly made.
No, when I was watching it, though, I was expecting to at least find it to be like one of those movies, like Troll 2. I like Troll 2 because that's like one of those movies that's so bad that it's good. But this movie wasn't even so bad that it was good.
You need more than one person to watch to enjoy.
Honestly, watching this, I was bored. It was fucking boring. To be honest.
The pace, like, it's weird. The pacing of the film starts off like really fast paced. It was actually pacing pretty well in the beginning, but then it just, I don't know, it just slowly just degrades and just drags for the rest of the movie.
And that's the thing, like, Batman Forever, even though I don't like it, I know I'm repeating myself, but I at least think Schumacher tried with that movie. In this movie, they didn't even try with this fucking movie, you know? Like, literally, at least with Batman Forever, at least they tried to make a movie. This just seems like it's one big, giant toy commercial, you know?
I don't know about a toy commercial. It was just that the film was just, in all phases of filmmaking process, it was horrible. The editing was horrible. They were plainly obvious green screens and CGIs. There were obvious like reversal shots where they actually recycled footage from another scene and just like reversed it or something like that. Yeah. You know, just basically like how like amateur filmmakers on YouTube edit their movies.
You know, you're
kind of like what we do.
Well, I don't know if too many. I only have a few short films like Broman Dude I have on this channel. If you haven't seen Broman Dude, do check that film out. But
sure.
You know, yeah. I mean, I think the movie's definitely deserves to be considered one of the worst movies ever made.
Yeah, I mean,
at least Troll 2 is freaking hilarious.
That movie's
I understand this movie is like. I understand this movie is kind of a comedy, but I wasn't even laughing at some of this. I mean,
yeah, it wasn't written very well. The characters were boring. George Clooney looked like he was bored out of his mind working on this movie.
Poor George Clooney probably orders people to go out and have copies of this movie destroyed.
Maybe. I could see him doing it.
And George Clooney, he's a good actor. He sucked in this movie. I mean, he was somewhat decent as Bruce Wayne, and I know a lot of people hate him as Batman. I didn't really hate him as Batman, but he wasn't that really
in a different style of Batman film. Like he could have worked in the Nolan movies. I think.
I don't know. I don't think he would have worked in that.
But my point is, in a more serious Batman story and direction, I think George Clooney and even Val Kilmer's credit. I thought Val Kilmer, same thing. Like if he was in a more serious role, he could have pulled that off. I mean, the guy played Jim Morrison in the Doors movie.
Oh, and he was great in that.
He was phenomenal in that movie.
Now he's fat as hell, and all you see him is and you see him in nothing now.
Right.
But okay, how about you explain the plot? Normally, I explain the plot lines in my videos, but how about you try to explain?
I am honored that you would give me that pleasure. But okay, so the plot of Batman and Robin. First, it centers around this guy named Mr. Freeze who is stealing diamonds to keep his suit at sub-zero temperatures, because if he's not at sub-zero temperatures, he dies. And he steals these diamonds and everything, and eventually he's stealing these diamonds because he can figure out a way to cure his wife. and then he wants to...
His wife has a disease called, it's called
Macgregor syndrome.
Now, I never read any of the comic books that feature Mr. Freeze, and I don't remember that much from the animated series. Was he at all like that?
I don't know.
I mean, I understand his wife was sick in the animated series.
Yeah, they didn't say specifically what it was. In this movie, they were more specific on what the sickness was, but basically in the animated series and the comics is that she's sick. She's really sick, and she needs a cure, and there isn't a cure for it.
Yeah.
So then, along those lines, Poison Ivy and Bane come in.
And here's the thing, this is one of the reasons I hate this movie so much. The Bane in this movie is not freaking Bane.
Well, yeah.
Because Bane in the comics, now, I will admit, I haven't read any of the comics which feature Bane, but I've seen him in the animated show, and Bane, from what I heard, is actually a very intelligent
He's a very intelligent villain.
Yeah, he's a, you know, and...
I may have not read the comics, but in the comic Nightfall, I believe it is, Bane actually figures out Batman's identity, I believe, and actually breaks him.
Yeah,
the whole thing.
I mean, I've read a bunch of Batman comics, but I never read any of the ones with Bane. I
never read any Batman comics either. I just know them from hearing people talk about them.
I mean, I've read Batman comics. There's not that as many as I probably should have, but I mean, from what I understand, Bane is a very intelligent villain, and
the guy figured out he literally
and
was
also
a
in the cartoons. I've seen the cartoons with Bane, and Bane is intelligent in that.
Yes,
and, you know, and really, probably the best interpretation of Bane, even though this does alter some characteristics of him, but really the best interpretation of Bane is in The Dark Knight Rises. I mean,
I would agree. I like Tom Hardy's
but this is not Bane. Because Bane in this movie is retarded.
Basically, you know. One-word dialogue. It's probably because of the venom, you know, a side effect from the venom. But basically, the thing is that doesn't happen.
Basically, in this movie, they change Bane's origin. Like, basically, in the beginning, in the movie, you see a mad scientist who is saying he's going to build, like, an army.
Who's probably the best character in this movie.
Yeah, and basically, he takes some serial killer, and they said the serial killer's name. It was, like, Antonio something.
Yeah, Antonio.
And then he injects the venom into the serial killer and turns him into Bane. And it's just like, that's not who Bane was in the comics or anything like that. And it's the same thing. It's one of the reasons why I didn't like Batman Forever is because they because they really fucked up Two-Face. In this, they fucked up Bane, but to a much worse degree.
Yeah, they just make him into, like, you know, a henchman, basically, and that's not Bane.
Yeah.
You know, Bane is not a henchman. He's a supervillain.
Yeah.
He's a super henchman in this movie.
Also, and then you have Poison Ivy, played by Uma Thurman. Now, Uma Thurman's a great actress. I mean, but in this movie, she's fucking horrible.
She really sucked.
Yeah,
I mean, she was basically a prostitute.
I wouldn't say that, but
she was playing a prostitute character.
I mean, Uma Thurman, she's a great actress in other movies. This movie, she was horrible in this movie.
She was, much like a lot of the other characters, just really bland and boring.
Yeah.
You know, just.
But basically, you know, in this movie, you see,
she looks like she's
a scientist in the beginning of the movie, and then her, mad scientist.
The mad scientist. She's an environmental nut job. And she's trying to, you know, save the world by somehow using venom to grow plants into animalistic plants that eat people, basically. And
the mad scientist kills her, and then she comes back as Poison Ivy. And, and her origin in this is similar to Catwoman's origin in Batman Returns in a lot of ways. You know,
it is similar.
Yeah.
That was done better.
Of course, Michelle Pfeiffer did a great job as Catwoman in that movie, but Uma Thurman sucks in this movie. And then you have Arnold Schwarzenegger as
Mr. Freeze, which we were talking
about. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, even though this was a bad movie, he was one of the better performances. Yeah, I liked him as Mr. Freeze.
I mean he was written horrible. Don't get us wrong, he was written horrible. Yeah. Every single line of dialogue, like, you know, just every single line of dialogue is a pun something to do with eyes. He literally has a pun for everything that happens. Arnold Schwarzenegger could have been a much better Mr. Freeze. I could see him in the role. You know, it kind of reminds me of the animated series, Mr. Freeze, a little bit. I always got that vibe from when I have watched this movie, and I still
don't know. I haven't seen the animated series Freeze in a long time, though. But
I don't know that. Just the way he looks and the way he sounds. I love the voice
in the animated series. In the animated series, I remember him sounding a little more almost Shakespearean in the animated series. In this, he pretty much just sounds like
his style.
Arnold.
He was written that way.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about like the way he sounds. Like, you know how Bane sounds like, I will break it with that like high voice and all. I'm talking about like the voice.
He didn't sound like that in this movie.
I know, but I'm just saying like the voice distortion and everything. I thought it could have worked in a much a more serious Batman story. Yeah. Like Clooney and Kilmer.
Okay, and then of course Batgirl is introduced in the movie. Now Batgirl in the comics and I believe and in the animated series is Commissioner Gordon's
Batgirl in this movie.
But in this movie, Batgirl is Alfred's niece. Now, I understand there are different Batgirls in the Batman universe.
Batgirl was never Alfred's niece, I can assure you that. But I'm not just talking about like what they did, just the person they got. I really hated a lot. Like, she was the worst performance out of everybody. Like, literally, every time she talked, she always had this thing going on with her lip, going like, Alfred.
Yeah, and then she tried to act like a freaking badass and shit. Yeah.
I kick Pamela, I do that. And sticking that freaking lip up, it's so distracting.
Yeah.
I did not like her at all.
Yeah, she was
the worst performance of the movie, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Yeah, I didn't
she was
her that much.
Horrible. And the fact that they made her Alfred's niece, I didn't like either, because that makes no sense.
Yeah.
I'm like, Barbara Gordon, daughter of Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Being Alfred's niece and then magically becoming Batgirl, that makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Even the way they told it, it doesn't work. It doesn't at all.
I love how we haven't even mentioned Robin yet, and he's in the title of this movie.
Okay, well, thrusting my rage aside from Batgirl, which I'm probably going to get into later. Anywho, Chris O'Donnell plays Robin in this movie. The casting was good, besides Batgirl, but what happened to the seriousness? That's the biggest problem with this movie.
Batman Forever wasn't that serious. I mean, it had some serious parts in it, and there were some parts I really liked about Batman Forever, but...
Yeah, and like the more serious stuff that happens in Batman Forever was really, really good. Like I was saying with Edward Nygma, when he killed that guy and he becomes the Riddler, basically, in that whole scene, that was really, really done well. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed that scene. And like I said, Chris O'Donnell, I could see him as the role. I think he's a very good live-action Robin. Mm-hmm. But that's what we got.
Yeah.
And
like, and Robin in this movie is a whiny bitch.
He is a whiny bitch, but...
I mean, in Batman Forever, I can kind of understand his family was killed, and,
Right.
I can understand
He's complaining about almost dying. He's complaining that he almost died, and George Clooney stopped him from dying, basically.
And in this movie, they hint at him becoming, like, Nightwing eventually, but I don't want to... Yeah, like, in the movie, they hint at, like, he wants to break off. I understand that... Well, but even in Batman Forever... I kind of
took that as just frustration.
Yeah, but even in Batman Forever, like, when he's trying to convince Bruce Wayne to let him join him as his sidekick, he's like, so what's a good sidekick name? And he mentions Nightwing as one. Right. I don't want to see this freaking Robin become Nightwing. He's not worthy.
Again, the writing was horrible. Chris O'Donnell, like I said, in a more serious role, I think he could have worked much, much better.
I mean, and then I can't believe we haven't mentioned this yet.
The infamous...
They add a subplot in this movie about Alfred dying.
I didn't mind it.
No, that would have worked in a serious Batman movie. Right. But with all the stupid shit happening...
Oh, yeah, I remember now. That reminds me. I'm going to bring in Robin a little bit here. The reason why they made Robin into a whiny little bitch for most of the movie, I think, is because they're trying to capitalize a little bit on the animated series. Because later in the series, they do go down that path, basically, and Robin does become like a whiny bitch in the animated series, too. But it's a little more likable and more understandable.
Yeah.
And they do fight, you know, and he eventually breaks off and becomes Nightwing. The subplot that we were mentioning before is Alfred is on death's door, basically. He gets stage 1 of the Macgregor syndrome, which was the same sickness that Freeze's wife got. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like you said, that plot could have been so much better in a more serious role, because I kind of got this vibe thinking like... when they were fighting each other, Batman and Robin fighting each other over Poison Ivy, I thought it would have worked a little bit better if they were fighting over, like, or not fighting over, but like distracted by that as well. Yeah. And they have like their minds are like all over the place. They're on Poison Ivy, and then they're on Alfred, and then blah 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 blah. You know, it just maddening. And eventually, it just comes to that boiling point, and then actually had the scene where in the animated series where Robin actually punches Batman in the face. In the animated series, Robin actually punches Batman in the face and says, "I'm done. I'm going solo because you're a freaking asshole." Yeah. You know? In that sense, I thought this film could have been a little bit better. It just felt like they were just trying to incorporate so many ideas, and there just wasn't one solid premise that they were going on. Like, they were trying to do a little bit of the comics here, a little bit of the animated series here, and
I understand that that both this and Batman Forever...
It's all over the place, the film.
But both this and Batman Forever are trying to be more like the Adam West Batman show, which...
That
works for that, but this is supposed to be a sequel to, like, Batman and Batman Returns, which were very serious Batman movies, and...
Well, debatable, but yeah, I know what you're saying. I do get what you're saying. And so... I think the films would have worked, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin would have worked a lot better if they were more serious.
Yeah.
Pretty much to sum it up.
I mean, and there are some serious parts in both films, but,
right.
You know, which actually seem very out of place, you know?
Yeah. Well, in Batman and Robin, Batman Forever, they worked much better.
Oh, yeah.
Batman and Robin, they felt completely out of place.
Yeah.
Like, because your brain... Because, like I said, the movie's all over the place. Literally, and the pacing is just so slow. It just drags and it bores you to death. And you're like,
literally, like watching this movie, I felt brain cells dying in my head. That's how bad this was. I mean, now, of course, this movie was a huge failure at the box office, and originally they were going to make a Batman 5, actually, called Batman Triumphant, and. From what I heard about that actually would have been interesting. Basically, it was going to have Harley Quinn, but they were going to change it to Harley Quinn was going to be the Joker's daughter instead of his love interest, and yeah, that's what they were going to do.
And that's interesting to you?
Yeah, that's kind of... No, what's interesting about it was the fact that Jack Nicholson was going to reprise his role as the Joker in a flashback.
Still, they're making Harley Quinn Joker's daughter? That makes no sense.
I understand, because when did he have a daughter?
Never. The closest he ever got was that it was in... Oh wait, no. No, I'm not going there. Not going there.
But I mean, like, well, I mean...
Spoilers, play Arkham City and you'll know what I'm talking about. That game is the closest that Joker's ever gotten to a baby.
But I mean, that would have... Maybe not Harley Quinn becoming, like, his daughter, but, like, Jack Nicholson reprising his role as the Joker in a flashback in the 5th movie. That would have been cool, and although then there was Howard Stern is going to play the
Yeah, that would have been awesome. I heard about that. That would be
I don't know how that would have worked out. Of course, since this movie failed epically, there was never a Batman 5, and eventually you got Batman Begins, which was really the beginning of a whole new series.
Thank you, Christopher Nolan.
which was really the beginning of a whole new series of Batman movies, which was a very different take on the story and, quite frankly,
basically the more serious Batman film that we've been talking about.
I mean, Tim Burton's Batman movies are serious. They have some humor in them, but for the most part, they're serious takes on the character.
It's Tim Burton humor.
Yeah, I know, it's Tim Burton humor.
You know, that's different from normal humor.
But yeah, this is,
yeah.
But I think we pretty much tore this movie a new asshole already.
The editing's horrible. Did I mention that?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
We already tore this movie a new asshole. I think people get that we do not like this movie.
That credit card.
Oh yes, I forgot to mention that.
We cannot talk about this movie without the infamous Bat credit card.
It's like Joel Schumacher was literally saying to George Clooney while they were filming it, "All right, George, you're gonna pull out a Bat credit card and keep a straight face on." Yeah. Like I said, I'm pretty sure George...
Seriously, I don't think... if you look at that scene closely, I really think you could see George Clooney just crack a smile, like... I can't believe I just did this.
Yeah.
You know?
And the thing is, like, Joel Schumacher's a good director. Not this movie, but I mean, he's directed some great movies, like Lost Boys, 8mm, which was a fantastic movie. You know, you gotta think...
Batman Forever had potential.
Yeah, I mean, you know, but I mean...
You know?
What happened with this movie? Why did this movie suck so bad?
Probably some idiot Warner Brothers producer was saying, no, we need to make it more kid-friendly because everyone saw the Tim Burton films and Batman Returns was too dark and...
Actually, I heard with this movie, they were giving Joel Schumacher more creative freedom with this movie. Yeah, it makes me think, like, he's a talented director. What the fuck happened with this movie?
Maybe it was along the lines of, yeah, you can do what you want, but you gotta do it like this. Like, maybe they had, like, a pre-made script.
Yeah.
And, like, the more serious stuff was, like, the random serious scenes was what Schumacher wanted to add in.
Yeah.
And the producers were like, okay, but we want you to make it like this.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
I wanted you to look at the review on the back of this VHS for the movie.
I actually wanted to bring this up, too. This, what it says on the back here, is actually a perfect representation of the film. Consistently dazzling. Igneous. Breathtaking.
Igneous,
Yeah, I don't know why igneous is there, but
have to be
consistently dazzling. Yes, there's a lot of stuff that dazzles you, but it's very boring.
Yeah.
And breathtaking? Yeah, you're going to be doing a lot of that.
The screenplay for the movie is written by that guy, who I believe also wrote the screenplay for the Will Smith I Am Legend movie, and he also wrote the screenplay for the Da Vinci...
Goldsman?
Yeah.
Really?
I think so. I'm pretty sure that guy who wrote the screenplay co-wrote the screenplay for, like, the Will Smith I Am Legend movie.
Well, this is horribly written.
Yeah. Look up his IMDb page. I remember he's written a couple of things.
Peter Macgregor-Scott.
That's the producer.
Peter Macgregor-Scott. Do you think they based the McGregor syndrome off him? How fitting if that was the case.
I don't know.
Well, obviously Peter Macgregor-Scott possibly could have been the cancer that killed this movie.
Yeah.
He was the McGregor syndrome of Batman and Robin.
Yeah, I think we made our point. So I think we should end this video off before we get killed. Bye.